YouTube. Trying to get this. There we go. Good morning, YouTube. I want to start making more of my kind of the random thought of the day kind of videos. And something came to my mind early this morning. And as the title says, do we really become our parents? You know, that's a joke many people use, that saying. Many people refer to as we get older, we become more and more like our parents, right? Think about it. Whether it's with our children, you know, we catch ourselves in certain moments. I know I do it, for example, if I see any of my children wasting food, right? Serving themselves more than, like my aunt used to tell me in Spanish, and all my Latino viewers or viewers that know Spanish will recognize the saying, no comas con los ojos. Basically means don't eat with your eyes. That means don't serve yourself more than you know you're gonna eat, right? One of my biggest pet peeves, for example, is waste, right? There's so many folks going hungry in the world today. And even here in Rochester, New York, you know, I'm very passionate and outspoken about issues such as homelessness. You know, as Americans, we have this, you know, kind of hypocritical thinking of, you know, God bless our troops and I support our troops. And every other car you see has the little magnet in the back that says, I support our troops. And we claim to be so patriotic, right? Think about it, as a society. And in reality, we're quick to just pass by and ignore a homeless person, right? We're quick, and we're all guilty of it, right? Think about it. Let's be honest about it. We're quick to roll up that window on a homeless person on the corner asking for change. And we don't need to go any further than right here in Rochester, New York. And I've made videos of how homeless veterans, you know, for a country that claims to be so patriotic, right? There's homeless veterans throughout the country sleeping on their expressway underpasses, freezing in the cold, especially up here, up north, and in states where there's, you know, cold weather. So back to the title of the video, do we really become our parents? And I connected that to the whole wasting food thing, because sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this, I've caught myself, you know, telling my kids, you know, not to waste food, for example. And there's these moments that I catch myself and I'm like, wait a minute. I sound exactly like my parents when I was a kid, right? And it's almost like surreal. Like you catch yourself and you're like, whoa. It's weird in a way. Hence the question, do we really become our parents? But the real reason that I thought of making this quick little video here, and like I said, I want to get back to making a lot of these little random thought of the day kind of videos just to bounce off, you know, what I'm thinking about at the moment, right? And share with y'all. Is because, as many of you know, and by the way, shout out to all the new subscribers, and those of you that are not familiar with my passion for thrifting, right? Especially when it comes to collecting Hot Wheels and you know, vintage toys, electronics, a lot of photographic and video equipment, especially Kodak. You know, being here in Rochester, New York, my hometown, the home of Kodak. What Kodak once was, right? So I love thrifting, whether it's garage sales, whether it's flea markets, whether it's hitting up the thrift shops, right? And I've made a lot of videos. So again, shout out to all the new subscribers. And if you have an interest or a passion or enjoy in any way thrifting and finding little treasures, there's a lot of videos on this channel about thrifting. So the reason I even thought about this video and making this video is because I remember as a child, my first introduction to thrift stores was my dad and my mom. And obviously when you're 12, 13, a lot of times you have no choice. You're stuck in the back of the station wagon, right? Maybe some of you can relate to this. Or nowadays, you don't see a lot of station wagons. So nowadays, maybe it's the younger folks are stuck going with their parents shopping. They may be in the back of the, SUV, playing on their, portable, whatever, game consoles or whatever. But back in the 80s, when I was growing up in the 70s, sometimes it was kind of like a drag, right? It's like I'm stuck with mom and dad in the back of the station wagon, and whoop-de-doo, they're about to go to the thrift store. Back then it was Salvation Army on West Avenue. Those of you from the Rochester, shout out to all my Rochester viewers. Rock City, the 585, the Rock, the ROC. West Side on West Avenue, the Salvation Army that is still there. Got to make a video about that spot one day. And a lot of memories at that particular store when I was about, 12, 13, 11, 12, 10, 11, 12, when we came back up from Miami. And in many ways, it was a drag. I got to be honest, it was a drag. I thought it wasn't cool. I was like, I couldn't understand the concept of people going to thrift stores. And Salvation Army has this thing that when you walk in, and other thrift stores I think have caught on, but I think Salvation Army was one of the first or the first to do this, where you look at the tag, right? And whatever color the tag is that day, if it's blue, if it's green, if it's yellow, if it's white, stuff is half price, right? 50% off. And so to me, it was just the most uncool thing to go to thrift stores. And my own kids now have kind of made fun of me sometimes about going to thrift stores. And I think now that they're getting a little older, they kind of understand it more. But to me as a kid, I kind of relate to the younger folks kind of thinking that it's not cool, because for me as a kid, I was the same way. I thought it was just so uncool to go to thrift stores and to have to be stuck tagging along with my parents. And basically being forced, for lack of a better way of putting it, to have no choice, basically, to go and tag along on these trips to the flea market, to the thrift stores. Now, I almost said flea market because, see, that on the other hand has always been fun. I remember growing up in Miami, where I spent the first 9, 10 years of my childhood. Shout out to the 305 and all my Florida fans and viewers. And I remember that was cool. For me, I did enjoy the flea market because there was a variety. I remember lizards, clothes, food, everything in one place. And obviously, those of you that are familiar with Florida or warmer climates like California, but especially Florida, flea markets are basically year-round because of the weather, right? Whereas here in the winter, there's no outdoor flea markets, and I don't really know of any indoor flea markets. But the outdoor ones, to me, have always been the most fun. But again, back to the title of this video, not to get too long-winded here. Do we really become our parents when we grow up? And I really think the answer is yes. Because now that I'm an adult and that for years I've had the passion of going to I keep saying flea markets, but yes, to flea markets, to thrift shops, to garage sales, I think is the coolest thing in the world, right? And now I'm in a position that my parents were in, where my kids in the past haven't wanted to tag along with me or accompany me, and they don't particularly think it's too cool. My oldest son, however, both my sons really, they've kind of found a little interest in it now, because I've brought them and I've found nice throwback clothes, right? Like old school sweatsuits and, jackets from like the 80s with those 80s colors that a lot of you remember. So they think it's pretty cool now. And again, that's like anything in life. Sometimes you got to find something that appeals to the younger crowd, right? To get them interested in something. And I think that was the case with my kids, with my sons and my daughter, is you always find something, that's cool. Maybe an old toy, maybe a doll, like in my daughter's sense, so again, I do think we could become our parents, and it's kind of just weird, but it's interesting that we really, I think, do become our parents when we get older. Peace.